Welcome back, kids. Today I'm making a small sign, but really the focus of the video is more about VCarve Pro than it is the actual sign. There's some things on here that maybe you haven't used before or don't know how to use, so that's what we're going to cover today in this video. So let's get to it and I'll show you how to do this. All right, we're creating a new sign here. I have set my dimensions as 16 by 7 1/4. It's set on 1-inch thick. The board's really not that thick, but it doesn't matter. I'm not cutting through it, so we're just going to leave it right there. Zeroing off the material surface, and XY is my bottom left, which is also my G55. The first thing we're going to do is import the one image that will be on this sign, and that's this one right here. So we just highlight that, open it. All right, now we're going to trace it, and to do that, over here is your image trace or trace bitmap. Click on that, and you see it kind of grays out the image there. You can see you have two options here. You can do color or black and white. That's just what we're going to stick with today. And let's just do a preview of the trace right here. So let me zoom in. What I'm looking for is a little trash.
Oh my God, if you're wearing a dress, please keep your knees together. Nobody wants to see that. Oh.
Like that. Little specks there, specks there. You can go through there and delete those manually, but it's easier to do it like this. If you will go to your noise filter, and by default, it's going to be on 2. And you can see, we can see the little trash in there. We'll just focus on this one. But if I move that slider over to 10 and then preview it, it's gone. Yeah, it's filtering out anything that's less than 10 pixels because I've got it set over here all the way. Anything less than 10 pixels, it just ignores it and it goes away. And that, most of the time, I'm not going to say most time, a lot of the time, you can get away with that. Sometimes you have to kind of play with it and find a sweet spot in the middle here. But so we're going to leave that on 10. That looks great. Now we're going to apply. Let me back out here, and I just clicked off out here in the gray area. Now, okay, yeah, I got to close that. Sorry. Now, we're going to drag the new vector off here to the side, and we're going to get this. You could just delete this. Generally, I'll just move them over. And we're going to put it about right here. And over here we got to have some text. It says Hardman Woodworking Established 2020. So let's do that. We'll go over here to our text tool, and we're going to use Times New Roman for here because that's what this logo uses. So it's got to say Hardman, all caps, on one line, and that text is going to be 1 inch tall. So close that, and I'll just move it up here about right there for now. The next line, since we're going to have a second line, and the next line is going to be smaller fonts, so we got to start a new text box. So we go here and click text again without that highlighted. And we're going to type in woodworking. And this text is going to be 0.5, ½ inch. Exactly half of what this one here is. All right, and then we got one more line down here. It's going to say established 2020, and it's going to be smaller than this. So we can't leave this highlighted and go over here and do what we need to do. So let's just click off of it. And this is going to be established, and this does not have to be all caps. Established 2020. All right, so let's move this up here. This one, I'm going to make it This one here was 0.5. I'm going to make this 0.4. It needs to be a little bit smaller. Right there. All right, now we need to align these. Let's close out of this text tool. Make sure we have these centered. So we just highlight all of them. Come over here to our alignment tool. And align selection is what we need to do. And we're just wanting to center them up right here. So that did that. I just clicked that center button there. So now that's good. And I like that spacing between the woodworking and the established 2020. That looks pretty good. So now we're going to move this to the center of the board here. So we go up here to the align to the material because that's what we're aligning to now. When we highlighted these three and aligned them together, we were aligning to selection. Now we are aligning to the workpiece, to the board here. And we just want it to be right in the middle. So we just click this right here and it moves it right there in the middle. And it's just as simple as that. So let me close that and then we'll kind of take a step back and look at this. I think this could be a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to hold my shift key and that'll keep it centered up right there. Make it maybe not that big. Like that right there. All right, we're going to go with that. So we've got our design here. Now we got to set our toolpath. So we're going to go over here, open up this tab, the toolpath tab. Click your little thumbtack there so this will stay open. Because if you don't, it's going to worry you to death. Because every time you look over here, this is going to close back. All right, so first thing we're going to do, I already know just by looking at this is going to be a VCarve. The only thing that won't be a VCarve, since there is quite a bit of thicker area through here, like the bark on that cross cut of the log there, we will run this, we will do a clearing pass on this with probably an 1/8 inch end mill. And then all of the text over here will be done with the V-bit, probably a 60-degree groovy genie. This text in here, we're just going to treat this like it's a part of the log. I could go in here, we could ungroup this. Let's do that. If I ungroup that, then I could make the H a standalone feature, and then I could carve it with the rest of the text over here. All I did there, I already had the H highlighted. Then I come over here, let me undo that. So I highlight the H, hold shift, and just drag your mouse across those, and that'll highlight all of them. And we can put those, we can group those together. So we'll do that. We'll go over here. This is your group button. Now these are grouped. But for this particular instance, I'm not going to group those together. We're going to run this as text. We'll run this over here. It's just part of the log. So what I need to do is click those again and then ungroup right here. Ungroup. That way it separates out the H from the rest of the text over here. So now I can make this, I could group this back with the rest of the log, which I'll do. Group it, and there it is. And then this over here is it's all grouped together. Well, okay, so now let's set our toolpath. So I already know that, like I said, this is going to be the VCarve. So let's just go up here and click VCarve. I'm not going to use a flat depth. These are thin, pretty thin, so I'm not worried about if I don't set a flat depth. It's not going to plunge all the way through the board or anything. So no flat depth. Going to stick with that 60-degree groovy genie. And we're just going to call this text. Calculate that. And then we'll look and make sure that it's not going to carve this too deep. So I'm just going to preview all. Set this to material color up here, and that way I can see. So if I left it colored black, like it's going to look, then you can't really tell how deep it's cutting. go back to your material color, and you can see that's fairly deep, but it looks real nice though. And then on the small letters down here, you have to look and pay attention to make sure that these are cut deep enough. If that was very much smaller, I would need to carve it with a 30-degree groovy Jenny. But we're going to leave that the way it is right there. So we back out of that. We're happy with that. Go back to our 2D view. Now we're going to do the log. So we're just going to highlight the whole log. And again, I'm going to cut it as a VCarve, but we'll just use a clearing tool to do that. So we're going to close that. We're going to go back here to the VCarve. There, we're going to keep the 60-degree groovy Jenny, but we're going to use a clearance tool, and I'll add a 1/8" downtown Jenny to clear it. So there she is. Select that. All right, and we do need to set a flat depth here. If we don't, then it would plunge all the way through the board. Well, anytime you're using a end mill, you have to set a flat depth. So here we go. We'll set this. I'm just going to say 0.06. Not worried about the offset or raster. Doesn't matter. In this case, it doesn't. So we're just going to call this the H log. And we'll calculate it. Reset it, and let's preview that. Oh yeah, that looks nice. So all of this over here will be the same depth. All of this is 0.06, whereas these over here we didn't assign a depth. They're only as deep as they needed to be for the V bit to cut. Say for example that line, the width that it is, it just went in ever how far it took. That's why these up here are deeper because they're wider. This line right here on the R, that's wider than the line right here on the E. So naturally, just because of the geometry of the bit, this is going to carve deeper in order to get this width of line. Down here, it'll carve more shallow because it doesn't have to go as deep to make that width of a line. So let's color this to see what it's going to look like. That looks pretty good to me. And yeah. All right, so we're ready to save this. And at this point, if you're curious about how long it's going to take to carve it, highlight your Toolpaths, click that little clock, and it's going to tell you this is going to take 5 minutes and 1 second, approximately. That is not an exact time, but that's close enough for me. Let's close that. Now we're going to save it. And I'm saving all visible toolpaths in one file because I am not operating as a caveman. I have the tool setter. No offense to all you cavemen out there. All right, so let's save these. Well, nope, we don't need to save those. Hold on just a second. Let me cancel that. I just noticed right here, this is a no. See, I have the tool 31, tool 6, then another tool 31. If I just save that and run it like that, it's going to run this toolpath, which is the text. It'll run that. Then it'll come to the front and prompt me to change the tool, put the 1/8" in there, and it'll run that. When it finishes that, then it'll come back and I'll have to reload that same tool that was in there before, which is the 60-degree, the number 31. There's no need in that. So what we're going to do, we're just going to group them together. And I'm going to move the end mill to the top, just to the top of the list. That way we got end mill, and then the rest of the sign is going to be cut with the 60-degree groovy Jenny. And that way there's only one tool change in the 3 tool paths. So that's an important time saver to group all of your tool paths that are using the same tool. Remember that. You'll be glad you did. So let's save it. And I'm going to call it video demo because I've actually already created this thing, but don't tell anybody. All right, so we're good. Now we need to send it over to the Masso through the MassoLink. So let me just open up MassoLink right here, and then go into my folder where I just saved this project. There it is, video demo. We'll go ahead and do this. We'll let it move over here. Hey, Punk. Hi. Gonna drop it over. Baby. Yeah, I know your name is Baby. All right, so we got the video demo over here. Now we're gonna click send, and then it's gonna go right over there to the Masso. You want to say hi to the people? Want to come here and say hi for a minute? Come here. You gotta look right there in that camera. Say hi. Hi. Yeah, this is my apprentice. Ain't that right? And her name is what's Punky Punch. Punky Punk. That's right. That's your nickname. And it looks like you've been coloring on your beautiful pajamas today too. But, it's pretty. Yeah, it's very beautiful. You did very good. Okay. All right. Let me take care of these folks, and then I'm gonna get with you. Okay. All right. Now just say. I need that mic. Hold on. Ha. You know, it's been a minute since I did a small sign like this. A real quick job. Feels good to make one that's not life or death. Although I do got a short deadline on this one, but Lord have mercy, no biggie. I just moved it up a notch in the queue because it's going to be so short. So
That's what she said.
all right, back with it. You know, it really is a thing of beauty watching a good V-bit carve like that, especially when you are carving with no flat depth and the bit just does what it's naturally designed to do based on the geometry and the angle of the point. That is just a classic V-carve look. And I could live to be 200 and I'd never get tired of watching this. This is just, it's art. That's all you can say about it. And especially that groovy Jenny, man, that down cut V bit. As far as I know, that's still the only one on the market. It just is so much better than anything else out there. It's not even fair to compare them. And you'll notice here what I was talking about earlier, how much shallower the 2020 and the EST carves than the Hardman at the top there on that top line. But it's simply because uh, the width or the thickness of those lines within those letters. Like that A there, you know, it's having to go deeper to do that. It is just amazing. I love it. And while I'm on here, just want to remind y'all to please like, this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Certainly appreciate that. The super thanks and all of those things are available if you feel the need to maybe give a tip. It's not mandatory, but it is very appreciated when you do. And I thank all of you folks that have been doing that. It means a lot. I'll show you how I deal with these little damaged areas there. They'll catch the paint, and then sometimes they're hard to sand out. So best thing to do is just prevent the paint from getting in there in the first place. Now, there's sometimes you can't do that. This one right here is very small. I'll do my best to cover that, but probably won't be able to get it perfect, but I can get it close enough. Tear me off a little corner. Just scoot him right in there. Of course, the wind picked up about the time I start trying to do something like this. Yeah, right there, perfect. I think the rest of them will be okay. Since I got a little piece of tape left over here, I'm just gonna put it right there on this below the H there. There's some more little ones down here, but those should sand out just fine. All right, we're ready for paint. The main concern with sanding out these bad spots there that were caused by the planer is if you have text or details that are not carved very deep into the wood, and if you sand too much, then you know what's going to happen. You're going to sand into the letters or the details, and it's going to look like crap and ruin your piece. So that's why it's best to prevent the paint from getting in those areas if you can, because sanding is not always a good option. And those are pretty deep V-carves there. You got to be careful. You're spraying right into them, and a lot of times I'll just stand the board up vertically and spray paint it that way. That way you're sure to get in there. All the little nooks and crannies. All right, that's it for this video. I hope I was able to teach you something that you didn't know before. VCarve can be intimidating, especially when you're first starting out, but don't give up. Just keep digging. It'll eventually start to click once you kind of understand how all those tools work together. Don't get discouraged just because it's tough. Check out Garrett Fromme on IDC Woodcraft. He has him and Mark Lindsay on here on YouTube have the best tutorials on the whole platform. I can't even begin to compete with those two guys. they are the two that taught me everything I know, basically. So thank y'all for watching. Thank you for subscribing. I'm over 1,600 subscribers now. There's the current number. Thank y'all so much. And y'all take care, and I'll see you on the next video.